So welcome everyone. Today is Friday, June 17th, and this is our Life Force Canada Regenerative Agriculture meeting. We meet every 2 weeks. We're on the first and the third Fridays of every month. My name is Karen. I am here from Manitoba. I want to welcome everyone to the call today. And this is a call where we focus on the restoration plans for our provinces, and we look at our food and our water issues. So I'm going to just set up the video, our first video that we're going to watch. Does anyone want to, while I'm doing that, chime in, say hello, share what's going on with you? What's on your mind?
Well, I'm never shy. It was interesting. I was in the last health and well-being think tank, and I thought it was related to this group as well, agriculture, because they asked, what would you want to do if you could do something for free, or basically health and wellness? And then I was mostly thinking, well, can we grow food, make our soil super clean, super healthy, and our water, structured living water, to have the equivalent of, it's supposed to be hyper nutritious crops, and we're supposed to be able to do this. She was asking us to come up with ideas you could do for free. So that was related to health and wellness, and I think agriculture as well. So I just thought I'd throw that in there because it was relative.
Well, you know, I'm not shy either, Brian. Well, we're both very shy, aren't we? We never communicate freely. What was going on here? Well, we didn't get the farm up the road, but we're looking at other options.
Wow.
So everything happens for a reason. We're just going on to bigger and better things. So we're all good.
Somebody else get it?
And he just actually decided not to sell.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So yeah, so that's what's going on there. But yeah, we're still looking at other places, and everything is going to work out exactly the way it's supposed to. We're still meeting weekly. We're one of the ladies from our group is taking a very intense microgreens course. And she is finding it like amazingly fantastic. And it teaches her from like A to Z of every single thing that you could know about microgreens, including the business aspect of things.
Wow.
So when we get to that stage of where we're actually going to be distributing and having, say, like a subscription kind of thing with people in our community. I said that people word again, pardon me. With the beautiful beings of our community, then we will be a lot more prepared. So, because you don't want to make mistakes if, you know, the shit's going to hit the fan. So I don't know how many mistakes you can make if people are hungry, but you got to have enough. So anyways, that's what's going on with us.
And that's going into great depth into microgreens. And
great depth. Yep.
I have focused mostly on simplicity and doing it as cheaply and easily as possible. So I'd be curious to have a little discussion with her after her course.
Yeah, for sure, Brian. I'm sure
I'd like to get in on that, actually. Can I butt in? I know you guys are talking.
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead, Thomas.
Hey, I apologize. For the first part of this meeting, I just got on. I wasn't listening. I thought the sound wasn't available yet. So I just kind of jumped in the last, since you started talking. And so I have something that I'm willing to put forward. And I think your microgreen development here would be like great. If there was such a permaculturist who came to me and said, look, build me a building and I will put my business there, then I'm ready for something like that. You know, as far as growing food here goes, someone asked me yesterday, what would the laws be like? I said, it doesn't really matter. I'm not making any money here. I do it all for barter system. And I'm willing to invest and hold this property up. And it's like, it's worth over $1 million. And I'm willing to like say, you know what, I'll put this down and let's get some community effort in here. And let's see what we got to do. And let's get growing food here because it's legal. And as long as it's a hobby, and I don't know why we couldn't call it a hobby because it is a hobby. And we'll get a bunch of hobbyists together and let's rock and roll. I'm ready to happen. And I'm in a tough situation right now where I know I'm losing a lot of money by hanging on to this property, but I feel that if I could keep it for community purposes, then who cares about money? Because you know, we're gonna need food, and everybody out there knows that it's coming down. So since we know that, you know, if anyone's willing to act in any way to help my project go forward, whether it's you know, putting forward some money because we do need like $5,000 a month to run this, but with $25,000 a month, I need like for 100 grand, 150 grand, this place is up and running. And and so I could sell and walk away and have money, but I don't really care about money. I feel that we would do better as a group effort if we could hold on to this place and not let me give it away to you know, the authorities and all that, who are willing to all jump in and take it on their divine prices. But you know what? I'm willing to put something up here, and I'm looking for people that want to make it happen. And I have to get people to act fast. So I'm asking the group if anybody is capable of helping me out, writing up the business display of this model. I have everything in my head, but I need someone to like dictate and fine tune it because that's my weak point. And you know, I'm thinking there's a lot of different things about this project that help everybody. And the first part is if we could just get the plants growing up there, and I mean all year round. I know I will be taking full responsibility on the design for the building, which is the scariest part because it hasn't been done before. The way I'm doing it, greenhouses are known to break down in time. And I have like the most spectacular place you could imagine with clay floors is my design with the maximum amount of sunshine. And I've already mimicked Mother Nature's way of cleaning and freshening the air with the sun. And so I'm willing to say, I'm going to put my project and I'll put out all my investment into this project rather than walk away. But I can't keep it unless I get some people come in and say, hey, you know what, let's get this going because it could be up really quick. We could be.
But Thomas, where are you, by the way? Where do you live?
Oh, I'm in Calgary, and I hope that doesn't stop anybody because we can help them all over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just wondering where you were, like just outside of Calgary or within Calgary limits?
I'm in the heart of the city. I'm sitting up on top of one of the hills on top of the river. And I got a vortex in the front here. And what's really interesting is shipping costs, you know, to the market or someone on a bicycle. And so, you know, to get something running and bring it to market or to pass it along to those investors that want to say, hey, you know, like that type of accounting, there's generalities, and I look at it and go like there's a 30-30-30 split on the profits, and you know, so you got to go divide that up equally, and we're rock and rolling. So
you're looking at a cooperative, basically.
It would be nice to be call it that. It could be just a small group of people that come in and say like, let's move this product so that it becomes part of our trading tools that we need to build a bridge. I'm really looking at the big picture and seeing the bridge and going like, this is like Ubuntu. This is like everything that sounds good and it's right here ready to happen. And this could be, yeah, a big community thing to take this thing over and keep it as clean and quick as needs to be, because there's other options here of manufacturing. But right now, if we just have this one project taken off, the advancements in here that we can even like decide to share science with, and there's room to live on the property for people who want to get invested right away, because there's I can fit, I got 3 empty bedrooms here if I wish, and room for a tent outside, so, and a Winnebago, and the project
Well,
still can run. So like there's a lot of opportunity here.
well, Thomas,
Yeah.
well, it's fine and dandy to like say and like put that out there, but maybe if that's something that you're really serious about, then maybe like come up with a kind of a presentation of what it is, because no one's really going to like, take this really like go forward maybe without more information. You know what I'm saying? Like to have some like pictures and like a kind of, I know you said like you need kind of help with the business plan of things, but that's my opinion, and
Yeah,
take it or
okay,
leave it,
well,
but you
Can
know what
I
I'm saying?
suggest, is it Tom or Thomas?
Tom is good.
Thomas, okay. What I would suggest you do is if you could put your phone number and your email in the chat, and that way anyone on the call that would like to contact you and get more details and offer to help or whatever, find out more, then you can connect with them. So yeah,
Can I just leave a phone number right here? Would that work?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'd gladly do that. For any inquiries, please contact me. Feel free to even come and see my show home. My number is 403-243-0366. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. And do you have an email?
It's aquatom@gmail.com, which is AQWATOM@gmail.com.
Great.
So yeah, the AQW, not an AQU if you're not totally paying attention.
Thank
Or
you.
listening to the English
Did
language.
everyone
All right,
get that?
thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. Brian, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, as you were talking about your plan here, first person that came to mind was Kai. And he's in the room right now. And I think this is a discussion you can get in more in depth with him if he's interested in this. But that seemed to me that he might be the best person to talk to.
This is Kai here. I just want to say that I did have an opportunity to touch base with Tom, and I had an opportunity also tour his property and everything here. So it's definitely a great concept and everything here. And I just invited him in just to share his vision kind of with everybody as we're kind of starting to look at developing this project and see how we can help and bring it forward. And hopefully, it can get totally up and running, that we have an alternative food source kind of in city and town. And if this is a model that we can duplicate, that we can share that with everybody else around Canada here. So I just wanted to see if Tom was able to make it. I'm glad he did. So at least everybody has an idea kind of what he's working on. With that, I yield.
Thank you very much. Okay, so our topic for today is ancient grains, and this is just a short video from BC that we're going to look at first of all, and then we'll get our discussion started on this topic. So.
All these grains are a super easy crop. They're all drought tolerant, and they all require far less babying than broccoli or tomatoes. Very little watering is required, and there's such crops that can really sustain you. Even though we're calling them ancient grains, they haven't really changed in all the 10,000 years we've been growing them. The rye back then is the same as the rye we have now. The wheats are not quite the same because in Canada we focus so much on getting bred wheats to mature a little bit earlier. So we've gone down a very narrow lane, but most other countries have many, like thousands of different varieties of wheat or barley. Basically, as you know, our model for agriculture for a long time has been this large scale monoculture agriculture. The varieties that I grow are probably none of them like what they grow on the prairies, just because I've got them from around the world, and the flavor is so obviously just superior. This is an emmer wheat, also a very old wheat, different than our modern bread wheats. In breeding for high gluten, making it better for breads, we lost a lot of the flavor. The other wheats still exist. They're threatened, but we could go back to them. And when I was in Ethiopia, a farmer in the field just handed me a couple of heads of wheat, and I brought it back and I grew it out, and it matured about 2 weeks ahead of any Canadian wheats, which is astounding because that's the sole focus of breeding in Canada has been to get grains to mature a lot earlier. You know, so how many other wheats are also way earlier to mature that we don't even know about? And that ended up being a commercial crop in California on thousands of acres now. People don't realize that the reason they're allergic to wheat and bread is residues of Roundup. Gluten intolerance is one thing, and some people have it, but I would bet that 90% of the people who think they're allergic to wheat are not. They're allergic to Roundup. It's heavy duty stuff. And there's been thousands of tests proving that it's really bad news, you know, and yet nothing ever happens. Well, it's standard practice now to aerial spray with Roundup, and that makes it easier for the combines because it kills all the weeds, all the stuff that's in with the wheat or the barley or whatever. But it's also a desiccant, and it dries them and makes it easier to cut. You know, amaranth. There's stories about amaranth and quinoa, you know, sacred grains of the Aztecs and the Incas. Not true grains, but seeds. Both amaranth and quinoa are tremendously drought tolerant. One amazing thing about amaranth, you can get a pound of seed for it from one plant. The potential is phenomenal. It's about 17% protein. If you're looking at the seeds, in some countries, people focus on the leaves of amaranth. They're very high in calcium and iron, and they're just a standard food in the Caribbean and Southeast Asia. I always thought that quinoa was less likely to catch on than amaranth, but quinoa became a super big hit. It has just a little bit more flavor than amaranth, but it's very similar. But it's a cooler weather crop than amaranth. The leaves of quinoa too are edible and pretty good. And quinoa is very high yielding too. Flax is fun. In terms of nutrition, there's not many plants that a home gardener can grow to get good oil, and flax is one. There's many different kinds of flax, and the one I grow, I call golden flax, is the one that you can eat just out of your hand as you're harvesting it. Well, barley, one interesting that I have are what are called hulless barleys. They actually have a hull, but gotten the name hulless because the hulls come off really, really easily. They're interesting for really small scale farmers because you can harvest your own barley and thresh it easily. I've developed a simple system of just walking on it in my threshing box, and I just push my feet back and forth, and it comes right off the hulls, and then I just blow the chaff away, and it's really fast.
You know what? The one thing that really stood out to me is that what he said is what I've been saying for a long time, is that people aren't allergic to gluten. They're allergic to the chemical that's sprayed on the wheat. I've been saying that for a long time because my parents were farmers and they had to spray that Roundup crap all over the place, and they both died of lymphoma, which is associated to the glyphosate. And I do believe that it's not a gluten intolerance. And I think maybe some people might naturally do, but I think it really has to do with the chemicals. So I think it's fabulous that that some farmers that are staying true to the ancient grains and organic style of farming. So kudos to him. Hope there's more that come.
Yeah, I like to say something to that. I can add to that. My grandma died of, they sprayed the farm with Roundup. And it was obvious that it was the Roundup. She died like right after. And with that, I yield.
Yeah. Love to you, Tom.
Yeah.
I don't believe that people are allergic to poison.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go on to the next one. This next one is about 10 minutes. So
regardless of the type of grain, whole grain products should provide 2 to 3 times the fiber per serving than refined grains. Some whole grain products carry the Whole Grain Council stamp, stating each serving should provide 22 grams or more of whole grain. When it comes to whole grain breads, tortillas, and other products, about 50% of the weight should be whole grain. How much whole grain should you include in your diet? The answer isn't as simple as you would think. The DASH diet recommends eating 6 to 8 servings of whole grains per day based on a 2,000 calorie diet. The 2015 Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends eating 3-ounce equivalents of whole grains per day for a 2,000 calorie diet. What is 3-ounce equivalents? It's a convoluted way of saying eat at least 3 ounces of whole grains per day for a 2,000 calorie diet. Like many American dietary guidelines, there is no consensus except for the fact that most Americans eat too many refined grains. And eating too many refined grains can lead to overweight and type 2 diabetes. Food manufacturers complicate the issue by providing erroneous or false information. The manufacturer of this sliced bread falsely claimed that one slice of its bread provides 150% of the daily requirement for whole grain. The waters become even murkier when it comes to claims by dry breakfast cereals. Some whole grain cereals, like this oat cereal, provides 3 grams of fiber and only 1 gram of sugar. This cereal also lists whole grain as the first ingredient, but it's followed by sugar and refined rice flour. One serving provides 2 grams of fiber and over 2 teaspoons of sugar. Putting ounce equivalents aside, 1 serving equals 1 slice of whole grain bread, 1/2 cup cooked whole grain, or 1/2 cup cooked whole grain pasta, 1/2 whole grain 8-inch tortilla, 1/2 whole grain pita, or 1 cup of dry whole grain cereal. If you're one of the millions of Americans who currently eat little or no whole grains, slowly add whole grains to your diet. Quickly adding high levels of fiber to your diet may cause bloating and gas. Start by adding about 48 grams of whole grains per day to your diet, equivalent to 2 slices of whole wheat bread or 2 cups of dry cereal. 2 fajitas made with 8-inch whole wheat tortillas equals about 44 grams or 4 servings of whole grain. When buying whole grain products, dismiss the marketing hype and look for whole grains in the ingredients list or the Whole Grains Council stamp. Multigrain is one way to make foods appear healthier than they really are. Multigrain can mean whole grains or refined grains. It simply means the product was made from more than one grain. This multi-grain bread claims to provide 9 grams of whole grains per slice. One slice is 45 grams. Unlike whole grain breads that are almost 50% whole grain, this bread is about 20% whole grain. The ingredients list lists enriched wheat flour as the first ingredient. Enriched wheat flour is another name for refined white flour. This 12-grain bread has 11 grams of whole grains per slice and 2 grams of fiber per slice. Another 12-grain bread provides 21 grams of whole grains per slice and 3 grams of fiber. Both are made from whole grains, but one brand provides twice as much whole grain as the other brand. Here are 11 whole grains for homemade 12-grain bread. In most recipes, the 12th grain is refined wheat flour. Some multi-grain products are no healthier than refined white grain products. Look for multi-grain products that list whole grains as the first ingredient, not refined grains. Ancient grains is one of the latest diet fads to hit the American market. Ancient grains include amaranth, barley, buckwheat, farro, millet, quinoa, rye, spelt, sorghum, and teff. Not all ancient grains are grains. Quinoa is a seed, not a grain. Most ancient grains have not been genetically modified like modern grains, wheat, corn, and rice. Some ancient grains, like quinoa, are gluten-free, while others, like barley, are not. Some health benefits of ancient grains are that they are all whole grain. Whole grains provide more fiber, many are higher in protein, and they provide vitamins and minerals not found in refined grains. Some disadvantages are they are not as readily available as refined grains. The cost can be substantially higher. They have reduced shelf life due to the fat content, and some have longer cooking times. Are prepared ancient grain foods healthier than refined grain products? Here is one serving of refined grain and ancient grain crackers. The first ingredient is wheat flour, not whole wheat flour, just wheat flour. There's more vegetable oil than millet, more sugar than buckwheat, amaranth, and other grains and seeds, and more leavening than teff. Nutritionally, the saltine crackers have fewer calories, less fat, less saturated fat, and less sodium. Both provide less than 1 gram of fiber, with the ancient grain crackers providing 1 additional gram of protein. Like multi-grain breads, it's buyer beware when it comes to prepared ancient grain products. In this example, buy ancient grain crackers for the flavor and texture, and not for any health benefits. Please leave a comment if you have any questions about this video.
So there you go. Lots of confusion, purposely misleading the consumer when we're purchasing these products at the grocery store. So yeah, if you want to weigh in on that, go ahead, and I'm going to get the next video ready.
Well, yeah, I've been watching the games that they played on our parents. You know, and what they did to our parents, they took our parents and they said, your parents are no good. They took our parents and told that to them. And so they grew up thinking, what's this organic stuff all about and all this and that. And when you look at that older age group, you know, maybe I'm wrong and I stand to be corrected, and you can all be mad at me for this, but I think when you hit the age of anyone who's 80 today, they really got fallen into the cosmetics of how do you call it? The cosmetics of ingredients, and how they started testing equipment, some equipment from other equipment, and how they changed all their marketing to fit Hocus Pocus and their own tests. But we've been fighting this forever. And here we are again, fighting it again. I'm glad.
Yeah, so true. Thank you.
Mhm.
I've just pulled up one of the suppliers of ancient grains. This is the Salt Spring Seeds. This is a gentleman that we saw in the first video. This is his website. And so, yeah, I just wanted to check in and what experience you might have had on buying any of the ancient grains that are available in Canada, either locally or online. So
Lakeview. I bought some bread yesterday from Lakeview. It's gluten-free and it's ancient grains and seeds, pumpkin seeds. And it's really good. It's like $11 a loaf. And here in Lakeview in Calgary, they've kept up a lot of that for us.
Okay. Can you believe though, $11 for a loaf of bread?
And you gotta eat it fast. It's no good in 2 days. It's still good, but it goes fast. But hey, it's like a treat. It's a real treat to eat it.
anybody had any experience with milling any grain? Or Brian, what's your procedure? You just purchase a flour, or what do you do?
I'm buying flour in bulk, and it was yesterday that I was watching one of these prepper shows. It was on YouTube, and he was saying one of the key ingredients to have is the flour berries. That's unrefined, unmilled flour or wheat. And then he's got a small little machine, which I wouldn't want to be refining it with that too long, but you could, store this. They're called wheat berries. You can store that basically forever. And they said they found some in the pyramids in Egypt, and they could make flour, and it was nutritious, and they could make bread. And so that's like a prepper idea, that you can get the wheat berries and put them in pails, food grade pails, and store them forever. That was something interesting I seen yesterday. But
Yeah.
myself, no, I don't do that. I just buy the bags. I buy whatever 20-kilogram bags.
Thank you. Yeah, I have einkorn berries, and I keep them in my freezer. So
I was in Mexico and I watched them like grinding the grains with concrete, and they would just put it in between concrete slabs and just grind it down. And if we didn't have our, how do we make grain today, or flour, we put that into a Vitamix, and you can make your own flour and cut your costs down that way. But also, if times got tough, we can make a lot of sanding paper and grinding of our grains with concrete. So cement's better. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I've seen them in Mexico making tortillas right from scratch, taking the corn flour and whatnot. And that was really interesting. So yeah, and I think that the point too on the video with the farmer in BC was showing that you don't need a big patch of land, right? Where you could be along with your gardens, you could be planting a few rows of grain and easily harvesting it yourself. So.
And saving your seeds that haven't been poisoned with glyphosate, and then using your seeds for next year.
Should I go, Karen? My hand is up.
Yeah, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Tana. I was getting the next video ready. Go ahead.
Okay. Just on when we were talking about grains and the milling process and everything too, I'd like to share that I was down in southern Saskatchewan on the weekends, or sorry, well, I guess Monday morning of this week, picking up organic flour and grain from it's called Schmidt Flour Incorporated, I believe. And what he has done, I believe he's like 93, like he's a pretty old guy. We never got to meet him, but he has a milling process that he created, and I'm not sure if he patented it or not, if it's, I don't know, but he has a milling process where it is low heat because a lot of the nutrition is goes away in the heat part of the milling process. So he has created this machine that actually is low heat. So his flour and grain, or his flour, is more nutritious than other people that have a higher heat milling process. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. I haven't tried his stuff yet. Like I said, we just got it. So, but we did buy some grains so that we could plant and see how that goes. We did a wheat and rye or barley. I can't remember, but we got some bags of that, so we can maybe do some planting on our farm when we get it. Our group here. So quite excited about that, but just thought I would share that part with you guys.
Thank you. So you be prepared. Okay, we're gonna start the next one.
Life can change fast. Why not get a flexible mortgage that changes with it? Talk to a Scotia Home Financing Advisor about a step mortgage. Scotiabank, you're richer than you think.
This crop. Now, these seed packs that I start with are just a few ounces. So in the first year, I'm just working on increasing my seed production. But I'm also growing a lot of different ancient grains from all over the world. I've gotten comments that people want me to show you the different ancient grains. So in this video, I'll do a quick overview of the different kinds of grains that I'm growing. Some of them are ready to harvest now. Some of them are close to being harvested, and some have a ways to go. So let's go through the different ancient grains that I'm growing in the garden. Now, this first grain that I'm showing you is a variety of rice. Most people think of rice as needing to be flooded, but there's several varieties that are dry land. And this is a dryland variety that comes from Russia. I'll put the variety and where I get these seeds. And it's new to me. I've never grown rice before, and I'm really curious to see if I can get some rice out of this. It requires water, so I do water it the same as I do corn, but it does not require flooding. So we'll see if we can get any rice out of this crop. Now, these seed packs that I start with are just a few ounces. So in the first year, I'm just working on increasing my seed production. And next year, I'm actually going to try to grow enough to eat. It'll be interesting if we can actually grow rice in a dry land garden. Here's a variety of barley that I'm growing. This comes out of India, and it has a spring growth pattern. It's a 2-row naked barley, so it's not as productive as the 6-row barleys, but it's still putting out a lot of seeds. So I think I'll get a pretty good crop of this barley this year. Now, the next grain that I'm growing is oats. This variety is a whole spring oat. You can plant it in the spring, and the seeds are easier to clean than the standard oats. Now, oats are interesting because they're the highest in protein and lowest in carbohydrates of all cereal grains. I got a pretty good crop, so I'll be able to grow a lot of oats next year. And I'll also try to eat these either rolled, steel cut, and cooked. So a good crop, easy to grow, very productive. Now here I'm growing a variety of wheat called spelt. This is a spring dinkel spelt, and these spring varieties are pretty uncommon. Most of these spelts are winter varieties. And so I'm really interested in growing this out and see if I can grow a lot more. I like the idea of being able to plant grains in the spring instead of doing it over winter. It's less of a time commitment, and it seems to be really productive for having a shorter growing season. You might see down here, I have some other plants. These are weeds. Last year, I grew tobacco, some Native American varieties of tobacco, and I did not plant those this year, but they're popping up everywhere. So tobacco is actually a weed. If you plant it and it comes up, you can either pull it or just let it grow. Here's a nice thick crop. It almost looks like corn, but it's actually a variety of sorghum known as white Milo. And it's considered a staple food in Africa. The seeds are gluten-free. They can be ground into meal or flour, and they're used in baking. And they can also be popped like popcorn. The birds love eating this, so I'm going to see if I can save some of the seeds before the birds get them. Here's an incredibly productive crop. These plants are over 6 feet tall with huge seed heads. This is quinoa. This variety is called redhead quinoa. It was developed here in Oregon. But quinoa has been grown in South America for thousands of years, and the seeds are gluten-free, so they've become more popular recently with the health craze. And yeah, this is doing really good. Now, these leaves look similar to lamb's quarter. These are closely related to lamb's quarter and will crossbreed. So you got to be careful when you're trying to save seeds, but a very productive crop. Here I'm growing a crop of the world's smallest grain. This is called teff. I have white teff and brown teff. This is grown extensively in Ethiopia, and these seeds are tiny, but they can be harvested and ground into flour, made into a sourdough flatbread, or brewed for beer. They're also cooked like oatmeal, and the texture is very similar to wheat. So it's interesting growing such a tiny little grain, and I can't wait to harvest it, see how it does. Teff. Here's another variety of barley that I'm growing. This is called Sardinian barley. It comes from Italy, and this is not a specific variety, but a name given to the landrace of barley that comes from the region. Here's a crop with a little white flower and seeds that are all ready to be harvested. This is not a grass, so it's not a true grain. This is buckwheat, which is closer to the rhubarb or sorrel family, and it's one of the first to be harvested, and it's a really big seed and can be ground into a flour. This looks like it's going to be a really productive crop of chia. Chia was grown by the Aztecs in South America, and it's a good food crop. I just got these seeds out of the bulk food section at the grocery store, and they grow great. So I think I'm going to grow a lot of chia seeds here. Here's a plant with little tiny yellow flowers, and a lot of seeds are starting to develop. This is in the mustard family. It's called false flax. It's been cultivated in Europe since the Bronze Age. The seeds are 40% oil, and it's high in omega-3 fatty acids. So definitely a promising new crop in my garden. Here's a plant that I featured in previous videos, but not for the edible seeds. I featured it more for the long fibers. This is flax. This variety is known as Marilyn, named after the long fibers, which resemble Marilyn Monroe's hair. And I make my primitive bowstrings out of this plant, but you can also harvest and eat the seeds as well. Here I'm growing 3 ancient varieties of wheat. I have kamut, emmer, and einkorn. I'm going to harvest these seeds and make bread out of them. I've been growing these ancient varieties for a long time, and especially einkorn. When I became interested in Ötzi the Iceman, the 5,000-year-old frozen ice mummy, they cut his stomach open and they found out that his last meal included a diet of einkorn. So I've been growing the ancient variety of wheat, and it's really interesting to grow these crops that have been grown for thousands of years. Here I'm growing a crop of millet. Now, millet's a catch-all name for several different species of grass. There's pearl, Japanese, Hell's Canyon, and proso. Here I'm growing white proso millet, which has some of the best flavor. Millet's grown around the world for food, especially in India. Here in the US, it's considered more bird food, but you can also harvest the seeds, which I'm going to do this year. This is a beautiful plant that's very vigorous and grows a lot of seeds. This is amaranth. This variety is called Hopi dye amaranth, and I've been growing this for several years and get a ton of seed off of this. So we're going to collect all this amaranth seed and make bread out of it. And a lot of this is volunteer. I didn't plant any of this last year. It's just seed that fell to the ground and grew on its own. So it could become weedy, but I'm glad that it's growing here so I can harvest it. The final crop that I'm going to talk about is cereal rye. I planted my whole garden in this last winter and let it grow. It outcompetes most weeds, and then I can work it into the soil as a green manure. It traps nitrogen and really improves soil quality. But I let some of it mature so I could harvest the seeds. My wife is incredibly talented at making bread. We're going to harvest these seeds, grind them into flour, make our own sourdough culture, and then bake bread. So stay tuned. You'll see garden to table experience where my wife will show you how to make bread from these grains that we've grown in our garden.
So there we go. I will post the links to these videos in the Telegram chat, and there's some other ones that I came across that were really interesting as well, that I'll post in the chat. So just gonna look, see if anyone's got your comments in the chat. So yeah, anyone else, again, come across any grains or seeds or anything that you've had experience with, or breads that you found commercially that you'd recommend?
I haven't bought a loaf of bread in about 3 years. I've been baking my own bread for that long and just experimenting with different recipes. And I get to, like, when you bake bread and you're experimenting, it's fun. And if you waste a loaf of bread, it's like what, 20 cents or whatever, a quarter or 50 cents. It's not even a big deal. So you can play and you don't have to worry about that $11 bread that Tom was talking about. And then if you have those other grains and stuff, like listening to that one guy saying his wife is an incredible at going from basically the garden to the refining to making the bread. Man, I wish, wow, that would just be awesome. I'd love to watch that and see that take place. I need to find a woman like that.
There you go.
Or
Hey,
just be that person, Brian.
Well, yeah, I know. But honestly, that just gives me tremendous respect for the effort that a woman like that puts into that. Because I know it's far more effort than most women I know ever put in to stuff like this. And I've been watching some other videos of these women that they're off grid and what they do. And honestly, I am impressed as hell.
yeah, nonstop.
You
work.
got to find yourself an off-grid woman. They're hiding in the off-grid system. You got to go find them, Brian.
It's my club.
I'm with you, Brian.
Oh, like, and to like watched like one in particular, and it was just like she had such a smile on her face all the time, and like she was loving doing all of this stuff. Like it was great fun, and I was just like looking at all the work that's involved with all of this, and I was thinking that is a tremendous amount of effort, and she was loving it, and she had a beautiful smile. I was just like, wow, incredible.
Thank
Brian,
you.
you have a beautiful smile too, okay?
And pretty girls don't lie.
Thank you. That's nice to hear once in a while, that's for sure.
So I had shared an experience a few months back in the Telegram group where I'd come across some recipes for zucchini flower. And I was really surprised because I had no idea that you could do that. And I had such an overabundance of zucchinis in my garden that actually grew to pretty large size. You know, they were overgrown. And so, yeah, anyone else had any experience with any kinds of flowers like that? And I know
someone sent me something about lilacs. You can make lilac flower.
yeah,
I'm like, that's a thing?
yeah, yeah. I was surprised
Right?
too when I'd read that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
haven't tried it.
Just listening to that last video is just like, you can make flour out of stuff I never even dreamed you could make flour out of. That's very interesting.
Well, and I'm really curious about where, you know, if we dive a little bit deeper into this whole subject, it'd be interesting to have a conversation about this again in a couple of months' time, and just you know, see where it leads us, right? What else is possible? What could we experiment with on a small scale? And or you know, it could be combining. Again, who was it who was talking about? Oh, was it Kai? No, who said in Mexico, like watching them?
I was mentioning that.
Yeah, Tom grinding the flour. So yeah, what could we experiment just in our own backyards with the seeds and grains and whatnot, and or
You know, it
combining?
depends on your soil, eh? There's a stuff I used to grow. I grew up calling it pigweed, so I told everyone I was a pig farmer. But they found this little grain, and it grows wild in the clay areas around here, and has this little brown seed on it. And they found it in caves of the caveman times, and it's the same grain. And you know, one thing I think, we're looking at plants and stuff and picking seeds and getting seeds ready, but I think nature walks and getting out there and picking the seeds that are in nature right now and just bringing them home is like really important, especially now that it's drying out a bit here. If it starts to dry and we get a couple days of dryness, we got to get out and pick, everybody. And we don't have to grow our own seeds. But I have a question. I feel ignorant, but I don't have the video. I could only listen on my phone. I don't have barely have chat. But rhubarb. He showed in there rhubarb. That's a rhubarb. That's not a rhubarb plant, is it? That you can make flour out of? He was saying. Is that no? Anybody can answer that?
Yeah, did he say it was in the rhubarb family? I don't remember. That might have been what he said.
Oh, because that would be a plant for us to pick on, because rhubarb's wild around Calgary and a lot of Canada.
Yeah,
So
it grows
that's
abundantly.
yeah.
Anyway, I will post that the link to that video in the Telegram group. So we're almost at the top of the hour. Yeah, what did you what new awarenesses did you have from our discussion today, and what's the next step? If anyone?
I have to agree with Tom when he was talking. We need to start foraging and to recognize plants that grow naturally in the wilderness that surrounds our area, because God has put everything we need on this earth. So we need to learn how to recognize the wild plants, or the weeds, quote unquote, because that's where we're going to find our what do you call it, the hidden magic. So I would maybe go along with what Tom was saying. It's like, let's get out there, let's go maybe find some different things too, like that we can harvest wild in the wilderness. There may be some seeds, or even to dry out some leaves or buds or something like that, because I think it's important to know that.
Well, what's so good about doing it now is to dry things out. The sun's sitting there. If you got cloths and wooden decks, just throw your stuff down in there and dry it out, and shake the dirt off it, knock it off as it's drying. And you can do multiple crops depending on your decking, right? Just bring tons of stuff home, like dandelions. Go get tons of them. And out in the mountains, they're so big that you have to cut off I found this out today. When you dry out your dandelion roots, and most of your roots of your plants, you have to cut off the collar where the earth meets the plant. Cut that collar off. It's like the top part of the carrot. But when it comes to a dandelion root, there's a lot of inner matter that's in the collar that's not good for you. So cut that off before you dry out, and it saves a lot of work too. So yeah.
Thank you.
With that, I hold.
Thank you. So yeah, so that's a challenge, and that we'll put out there for 2 weeks. When we meet back again, we can share what action steps we took on collecting, foraging, harvesting plants in our own backyard. Maybe even checking online or in our community and see if there's anyone who's doing scheduled nature walks and that sort of thing as well, because there are people that are doing that, whether it's related to herbs or whatever. I think
we're actually thinking of doing one, Karen, as a group, like our group, Friday.
Yeah,
next Friday. So hopefully that comes out and it's not pouring rain, but we'll let you know.
Great.
One thing that seems kind of important, and I'm going to take this on right away, is if we can grow our own crops and we want to make our own flour, I think we need a milling machine that is suitable for home use. The last one that I seen, it looked really small. So I'm thinking something a little bit bigger than that. I'm going to do a little research into that and find something on a scale that is fundamentally, hopefully easy, and we'll produce it on a large enough scale that it's not too difficult.
But maybe also, Brian, that doesn't require electricity.
Well, the one that I seen yesterday, it was a hand mill and you had to do it by hand, but it was very small. So I'm just thinking something bigger than that. And I know what you mean. You have to do it by hand, would be ideal, but I don't want to be making a quarter cup at a time.
Well, it fill your day now, won't it, Brian?
We look forward to your report, Brian. So thank you everyone for being here today. And again, we'll meet back in 2 weeks, and be sure to visit the Telegram channel and check out the things that people are posting in there. Brian, did you have something else? You've got your hand up.
No, that's just a thumbs up.
Okay. Thank you so
Good
much.
meeting.
See you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.